What is going on YouTube? Matty Ice here, and it is week 6 of the 2016 college football season, and we have a good weekend for you right here. First, I want to touch on a little bit. The LSU-Florida game has been canceled due to situations down there with Hurricane Matthew, so thoughts and prayers going out to people who've been impacted by the hurricane. The first game that I have up right now is Iowa, who is 3-2, versus Minnesota, who is 3-1. Both of these teams are competing for what is known as the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy. Iowa, they lost last week to Northwestern 31-38. Minnesota lost last week to Penn State 26-29. Both these teams are two Big Ten schools, and they love to run the football a lot. I'm going with Minnesota in this one, 35-31. Next game up, it is Auburn, who is 3-2, versus Mississippi State, who is 2-2. Auburn with a big win last week over Louisiana Monroe, 58-7, and Mississippi State, they had a bye week last week. You would expect teams with a bye week to pick up the stamina to run the table, but this Auburn team, they're legit after beating LSU and coming off of some good wins. The defense is going to keep the hold for both of these teams because the offenses seem to keep struggling. I'm going with Auburn in this game, 21-17. Now moving on to the Red River rivalry, it is Texas, who is 2-2, versus number 20 Oklahoma, who is 2-2. Texas with a loss last week to Oklahoma State, 31-49. Oklahoma with a win over TCU in this one, 52-46. A lot of people are picking Oklahoma in this game. I believe that Charlie Strong for Texas has to win this game to keep his coaching career going. I have Texas winning this game 42-35. Next one up, it is number 6 Houston, who is 5-0, versus Navy, who is 3-1. Houston got a big win last week over UConn, 42-14. Navy, they lost to Air Force last week, 14-28. This Houston team keeps rolling along despite the fact that they've had so many injuries. I think they're going to keep the momentum going. I have Houston winning 49-28. Now moving on to Tennessee versus Texas A&M, number 9 versus number 8. Both teams are coming this one 5-0. Tennessee with a big win last week over Georgia, 34-31. Texas A&M with a win over South Carolina last week, 24-13. This is going to be an interesting matchup. In my opinion, whoever has the ball last is going to win the game. I have Texas A&M 45, Tennessee 42. Now moving on to an ACC matchup, it is number 25 Virginia Tech at 3-1 versus number 17 North Carolina, who is 4-1. Virginia Tech, they had a bye week last week, and North Carolina got a great win over Florida State, 37-35. I still believe that North Carolina controls their own destiny. They do have a challenge with Virginia Tech, but with the momentum from what happened last week, I'm going with North Carolina 35-28 in this matchup. Now moving on to Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Both these teams are 2-3. Both these teams need a win in order to keep up their season going. Vanderbilt with a loss last week to Florida, 6-13, and Kentucky with a win with a loss over Alabama, 6-34. This is going to be a close matchup between these two schools, but I believe Kentucky is going to get the job done. I have them winning 28-21. Now moving on to a big matchup, it is number 1 Alabama, who is 5-0, versus Arkansas, who's number 16, sitting at 4-1. Alabama with a big win over Kentucky, 34-6. Arkansas with a big win over Alcorn State, 52-10. Upsets happen, and Brett Bielema for Arkansas, he has had some great wins in the upset fashion. If he wants that key signature win, he's going to have to defeat Alabama. I believe they have the tools to win, and also the fact that it is at home for Arkansas. So I'm going with the upset. I'm going with Arkansas 35, Alabama 31. Now moving on to another SEC matchup, it is Georgia, who is 3-2, versus South Carolina, who is 2-3. Georgia with a win over Tennessee last with a loss over Tennessee last week, 31-34. South Carolina with a loss last week to Texas A&M, 13-24. You know, a lot of people can say that South Carolina is not that good. They are playing with a lot of young talent, and same for Georgia. And I believe that Will Muschamp has got to have a big win on his resume his first year. I believe that South Carolina is going to beat Georgia in this matchup. I believe South Carolina is going to win 28-24. Now moving on to the final game that I have right here. It is number 23 Florida State versus number 10 Miami. Both these schools are coming into this game highly big. Thing is, Florida State, they have 2 losses on their resume. Miami, they are undefeated, but they haven't played a quite talented team like Florida State. But it is hurricane season, and I believe Miami is going to get the job done over Florida State. I believe they're going to win 35-28. So that's this week for my predictions, and let's see what's happened this week.